back to my channel. Okay, so this video is gonna be a little bit different today, and that's probably why my little face is in it and not a doll version of me. But I wanted to do a little bit of explaining, and I wanted to do a little intro because I figured if I didn't, it would be a little confusing maybe. So Elegoo reached out to me. If you guys don't know who Elegoo is, it is a 3D printer company, and I've been wanting a 3D printer for a while, specifically from Elegoo. So when they reached out to me, they asked me if I would be willing to paint a sculpture that they did in collaboration with an artist named Jukka. Jukka is a very talented 3D sculpting person. They have a lot of really cool, I think they like sell minis. I think that's kind of what they specialize in, or that's what their 3D sculptures are sort of meant to be. And I'm not gonna lie, I have zero experience, zero with painting minis. I had never painted a mini in my life, okay? And I've also never 3D printed anything. And they specifically asked me if they could send me a 3D printer and I could print this sculpture, and they sent me the resin. This video is a lot of new things for me. I've been wanting a 3D printer for a while, but I'm kind of lazy, all right? And I put things off, okay? And so I've been wanting a 3D printer. But I haven't been super excited to put the effort into learning how to 3D print things, because I know it's like just this whole thing and it's overwhelming, or at least for me, because when I get frustrated, I get overwhelmed, and then I get even more frustrated. I figured accepting working with them would really push me to learn how to 3D print. And it did. And now I know how to 3D print. Isn't that great? I'm going to link the sculptor's information down below and Elegoo's information and the printer that they sent me and all that stuff. But I wanted to go over some stuff that I bought with my own money that they didn't send me. They sent me like all of the basic things that you would need, but I bought some like little extra things off Amazon because that is just who I am, okay? I like to explore Amazon when I'm getting into a hobby. It's exciting. And there's also just stuff that you need to buy for 3D printing. Off camera, I just don't feel like getting it down, and to be honest, it's a little bit gross. I bought like a whole like container thing to wash 3D prints in. I think it was like 20 bucks. And it has like, right now it has the leftover resin and also the leftover alcohol. If you guys don't know, you need to wash resin prints with isopropyl alcohol. It has the leftover alcohol in it, and it's just nasty. By the way, does anybody, I've looked up videos on how to like dispose of this stuff, and does anybody know a way of disposing it? I obviously don't want to like put it down the drain because that's not great for the environment. Does anybody know how to dispose it that is a little bit easier than me bringing it to a like chemical place where they dispose of it? Like, I've seen crazy videos where people like try to clean the isopropyl alcohol and like filter it and stuff, and that seems like a, my apartment is small, okay? We're not doing that. But yeah, so when you get into 3D printing, you have to buy a lot of isopropyl alcohol. I have so much isopropyl alcohol. I have a little thing in 99%, I have 2 of these, and then I have just tons of 91%. And that's sticky, great, probably has resin on it. I bought a little spray bottles, I have like 3 of these. I just put isopropyl alcohol in it for when I'm cleaning prints. I also bought, and this was really useful, I watched so many 3D printing videos, which by the way, I'll put a couple of them in the description box if you guys are getting into 3D printing, just the ones that like really helped me. I bought a tray that I put my 3D printer on because 3D printing can get really messy because resin is just a liquid, and it's also just not a great liquid to be around. It's toxic, and if you like drip it everywhere, that's not great, and you have to like clean it up. But I bought a tray to put my 3D printer on, so when I am taking like the whatever the thing, the fill plate, when I'm taking that off, it like drips sometimes, so it drips on the tray, and that's just like easier to clean up. So that was a really useful buy that I saw somebody recommend. I bought funnels. I have like a bunch of these, but I can only find this one. But I have a bunch of them somewhere. These are so that you can pour the resin when you're done printing back into the bottle, so that you can get like the most out of your resin. And I bought scrapers, which was really unnecessary because it comes with one of these. So I bought a bunch of these because I thought it didn't come with the metal ones. I thought it only came with like the plastic one, and I've heard pretty much everybody, because everybody always talks about, they're like, the plastic scraper it comes with is useless. Do not all of them come with a metal scraper? Because mine came with a metal scraper. So I have just tons of tons of scrapers because I bought a pack off Amazon thinking it didn't come with those. That's not super necessary. I guess you probably don't need to buy that extra. Oh, and something that's really useful that I found somebody recommend. I saw someone recommend these things, which I truly don't know how to describe what this is, but it's kind of like a razor blade. See how it looks like a razor blade, but it's plastic. So it's like a scrapey thing, and this is great for if you get cured resin, like if it cures on your FEP, I think it's called the FEP film, and you have to be like really gentle when you get it off because you don't want to break that thing. And this thing gets it off like really easily. You just kind of like scrape underneath it and it just pops up really easily. So that was a really, really useful purchase, an extra thing that I bought. I just wanted to go over the extra things that I picked up and kind of explain where this video is coming from because it's not really something that's super in the norm for me, but I do believe that I'm going to be using my 3D printer quite a bit from now on because it's just a really useful tool to have for doll customizing. So like, I'm really excited to print some dolls, honestly. There are some really cool ones on Etsy. And also the Dolly Geek, who I've done quite a few collaborations with, they 3D sculpted this like really cute little chibi doll. I really want to print that out. So let's get on into the video. Alright, so I got this 3D printer and curing box and resin from Elegoo, and I'm going to attempt to put it together. And, well, not put it together, but like set it up and stuff. And hopefully it goes well. Yeah. My cat. Meow. The printer came with a lot of really useful things, honestly, like more things than I thought it would. It came with an extra FEP film, which is super useful because they're a little bit fragile, and a user manual, which basically walks you through how to calibrate the built plate, which is something you have to do when you initially get the printer. I calibrated it off camera, but I'm going to link a video down below that really walks you through in depth how to calibrate it. The printer comes with a lot of extras, which just means that there isn't a giant buy-in once you buy the 3D printer. You would have to buy isopropyl alcohol and a container to put the isopropyl alcohol in to like clean the prints, and then also resin. But there's a lot of things in this printer that I just didn't expect to be there. Like, they give you a paper funnel. I'm personally not about that paper funnel life, okay? I probably recommend getting a plastic funnel or a silicone funnel like I have. But you have the option of a paper funnel, and it comes with gloves, a mask, so there's just a lot of things in here. For your first print, Elegoo recommends that you print this chess piece, and the software that I am using is Shatubox, which comes with the 3D printer. It's a slicing and support software that you can use. This chess piece doesn't need supports, which is why it's a really good first beginner-friendly print. I'm using Elegoo's skin resin, and I forgot to shake it up. So, you know, remember to shake your resin. Why, I'm not entirely sure, but it might actually be why I got the results that I did for this print. So just don't be like me, okay? Shake your resin. The flash drive that they initially send you is actually what you're going to be using to take your files and put them into the printer. So you can use the flash drive, put it into your computer, and then transport them into the printer. So that's what I'm doing with this flash drive, and we are just gonna be printing her. Let's talk about my results because they weren't perfect. So my prints came out for some reason, the very top, like they were almost perfect, but the very top for some reason like skewed off to the side. Not entirely sure why that happened. I'm thinking maybe it was because I didn't shake up the resin. The bigger issue that I had was I could not for the life of me get these prints off of the plate. It took me 40 minutes. I actually ended up trying to like just snap one off with my hand because it was so hard, and it just completely snapped the print in half. So I posted on Instagram being like, yo, what is this? Why is this so difficult? Because if it's this difficult every print, I don't think I'm going to be able to 3D print. And a friend actually said that maybe my resin settings weren't right, so I actually changed them, which ends up biting me in the butt later. It ends up being an issue because I just looked up Elegoo skin resin settings and didn't take into account that whatever I found would be possibly a different printer than the one that I have. This is the aftermath. You can just see how scratched up the plate is from me fighting with it for like 40 minutes. Once you're done printing, you just need to clean off whatever you printed with isopropyl alcohol, as well as anything that the resin touched on the printer itself. I think my least favorite thing about 3D printing is probably everyone else's least favorite thing about 3D printing, and that is the cleanup process. It just takes a while. It's a little bit messy, but you know, you gotta do it if you want to get a nice little print. I think that the most unfortunate thing is like when you don't get a print that's nice, you know, if you have like a print fail and you still have to clean everything up, it just sucks a little bit. Even though this chest piece technically failed, I want to cure it, so I'm going to put it in my mercury curing station, and it's just spinning around. I really like this thing. I just think it looks cool, by the way. Instead of attempting to print the chest piece again, I just got right into printing Jukka's figure. So this is the butterfly lady. She's stunning. She's just beautifully detailed. This model comes with several different parts. There's the lady who's on the base, and then there is the frame that you are to put onto the base. After working this, I think that this would be stunning. So this is sold as a mini, or I guess you can print it kind of bigger like I did and paint it more as a resin figure, but I really wish that this was sold as a garage kit, where if you guys aren't familiar with garage kits, resin garage kits, Leona's Workshop here on YouTube paints a lot of them. They're basically figures, and they're in all different parts so that you can like take the hair off and then you kind of glue it on at the end. And it's just easier to paint that way, and I think that it would be so cool if this was that. I wish this for two different reasons. I think that printed small, a lot of the detail just wasn't coming through, and as you can see, this is beautifully detailed. And also, the second reason is just would be just easier to paint if it's in different parts and then you just glue them together. I wanted to print the lady first, so I used a combination of auto supports and then just supports that I put in where I thought that they should be. This was kind of difficult for me because I'm naturally a person who overthinks things, so I think I probably had too many supports, but it is what it is. With this print, I also forgot to shake the resin. Who needs to shake resin when you can just not shake resin, you know? And to be honest, I have very low expectations because I forgot to shake the resin, but it turned out okay, like it's not awful. She's not like skewed off in one different direction for some reason. So I am just cleaning her off with some isopropyl alcohol. I did have issues though, okay? It wasn't perfect. What was wrong is that she came off way easier, which was great, but there were areas of her that were like so thin. Like the resin, like, okay, the area on her dress was literally as thin as a potato chip. So I was so scared that I was gonna break it off. And the butterfly, no shot, okay? The butterfly on her hand, the resin there was so incredibly thin, it just snapped off. Like, it was just like, peace, goodbye. So I'm curing her, even though we had some mishaps. And after I was looking at her, when I cured her, I realized I just can't see details. Like, there's no details happening here. I know that this file is very detailed, so I'm just like not really sure what's going on because I can't see it. And at first I was like, okay, well the resin's really light, maybe that's why I can't really see it, but I couldn't really feel it with my fingers either. So I figured I would try to print it again, and this time I tried to print it bigger, and also I shook my resin, okay, wrote a big old sign on it so I would remember, and it did come out better, but I still wasn't seeing the details. So at this point I'm getting kind of frustrated because each of these prints take 8 hours. So I took a screenshot of my settings and I sent them to Elegoo, and I was like, please help me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but these prints just don't look detailed. I also had a friend offer help, creepymanderscustoms on Instagram. Her boyfriend is like a 3D printing, mini painting pro or something. I don't know. He just got a lot. He knows what he's doing. Okay, I don't. So she offered up his help. They were the real MVPs through this project. Okay, I honestly could not have gotten through it without them. So thanks to them. Shout out to them. But yeah, so I was talking to him and he was saying how he thinks that I'm not getting details because the prints are too small. And I said that I couldn't get them any bigger. So he said, well, why don't we take the base off? So I didn't even know that was an option, but I guess he has some sort of a software where he can separate the models. So he separated the base from the lady, and I was able to print it way bigger. He also put the supports on for me because I'm just not great at them, okay? And he sent the files back to me, so thank you so much, okay? They are linked down below. Please go check them out. Manders paints dolls and also paints minis, and Curtis paints minis and 3D prints things, and they were just a giant help for this project. Unfortunately, the bottom of the dress got a little bit like scuffed up. It's like a little bit ripped, and also her arm is a little bit wonky, but these are all things that I can fix with epoxy sculpt, so I decided to do that instead of printing her again. Now, my take on the base, I tried to print this, and it obviously came out a little bit bad, which I talked to Curtis about it, and he said to slightly move the base over, which I had to do for every single one of these prints for the base and then the frame. I don't really know why, because it said that it was centered on Shatu box, but I moved it over and it printed fine. I wanted to show you guys the base, and the little parts of the dress that were ripped off are actually on the base. So I think it was just like something that happened when he was separating the base from the figure, but it's not a huge deal. I touched up the dress, her arm that got a little bit like wiggly wonkly, and also her hand, which for some reason her one hand is like ripped off, the one that's grabbing her dress. I don't really know what happened there. I assume it's probably the same thing that happened with all the other parts, and maybe this wouldn't have happened if it was just like slightly scooched over when I printed it. But it was a really easy fix with epoxy sculpt, and I think that it came out pretty seamless when I'm done sanding it. Upon printing this and I was like looking at it, I was like, I feel like I still can't see the details, and I was feeling a little bit crazy by this point because I was like, where are these details? But when I sprayed it with my primer, so I went to my local game store and I picked up the Citadel black and white primer. Once I sprayed it with that, the details were there. So I think it was a mixture of not having the right settings, and then also the resin being very, very light, which was keeping all the details from me during this whole printing process. So I initially sprayed the figure black. I kept the base and the frame just black, but I wanted to try something out called a zenithal prime, which is where you spray a dark color like black, and then you go from the top and spray a lighter color, and it sort of gives it a lighting effect. I don't know if I completely accomplished this. I think I oversprayed it, but I thought it looked kind of cool. This is how everything looks after I sprayed it with primer, and I just think it looks so nice like this. I kind of wish I could have just kept it like this, but you know, I have to paint it as well. You can just see all the tiny little details, and she just looks so statuesque and pretty. You can even see like the details in her iris because Jukka actually sculpted on like irises and stuff. It's so cool. I wanted to paint the base and the frame first, so I'm putting the frame together, and it has these like little notches and holes that fit together, but they don't quite fit perfectly. So I'm trying to shave down the notches a little bit so they'll fit in the holes, or I'm just cutting off the notches completely and gluing everything together with super glue. With Arteza gold paint, I am just dry brushing the base and the frame, and this is just a really awesome way to bring out metallic details. It's very easy, and I think it looks great by the end of it. When I was at my local game store, I also picked up some mini paints, just in very basic colors that I thought I would be using all throughout this. One of them was a skin tone shade, so I'm painting all of the areas of her skin. I'm doing like 2 coats, and once this dries, I'm going to be adding details to her face in a very similar way that I do when I paint my dolls. I keep almost accidentally calling this a doll and not a figure. But yeah, I'm building up details and like blushing and stuff with pastels, not so much pencils. This whole entire face was paintwork and pastels, which let me tell you was so hard. Okay, her head is like the size of my thumbnail. This was just a lot of little baby lines. But every time I lay down a coat of that skin tone paint, I'm just kind of smoothing it out with a different brush because I want the paint to lay down as smoothly as possible. When I was painting her eyes, I think I went in with a little bit too much white paint and I completely lost these sculpted on irises, so I sort of had to improv it a bit instead of going with what was sculpted on. I decided to give her pink irises, and I'm doing this because it's just going to match her dress. I like to keep things a little bit, not monochrome, but I don't like using too much color, so I'm trying to keep it a little bit to the minimum. I also gave her a waterline, which was a little bit insane in retrospect because like it's the smallest of waterlines. And I pulled out my Micron pen because I mentioned in my last video when I get really, like I really want precise lines and I'm having a hard time, I pull out the Micron pen. Her skin was looking a smidge bit gray, so I went over top of it with a beigey pastel. I blushed around her face, her chest, her body with blues, pinks, reds, and browns. With my Micron and a mix of black watercolors, I'm outlining her eyes as well as her iris and giving her the teeniest of tiny lashes. She needed some lips, so I just dabbed a bit of red pastel on her mouth with a brush and then went over it with a watercolor pencil. I actually got away with using a watercolor pencil for this step, so that was nice. I attempted to add highlights on her waterline as well as just kind of throughout her face with white paint. This is where we're at with her face. I'm going to be adding a little bit more details later, but I wanted to get on to painting the dress and her hair and things. So I'm going in with that pink paint that I bought, and I'm starting underneath her dress just in case I mess anything up. That area is not going to be super reviewed, and this is like at the part where I was just like truly thankful that the base was off of this figure because this would have just been so much harder if it wasn't. But I'm also painting the top layer of her dress, and I'm doing each area with about 2 coats. Some areas might be an exception, but I think most of them are 2 coats, just to build up the color and try to get it to lay down as nicely as I can. I'm painting the rest of her, so I'm moving on to her hair and her stockings and things, and I used my other Vallejo air paints. I wanted her stockings and her hair to be the same color, so I'm using this color that's labeled baby blue, but it's definitely mint green, because I wanted to do that, you know, perfect combination of green and pink. I saw in a mini painting video that they used alcohol inks to just add washes and shade things, so I'm attempting to do that with the dress. I kind of dig her hair being one uniform color, but I decided I should probably shade it a little bit. So I'm doing the same thing that I did with the dress and shading it with alcohol inks. I mixed that minty green color that I used for her hair with a bit of white to add a highlight color to her hair. I paint the cute little frills she has on her dress white. Since we have shadows, we also need highlights, so I'm taking that pink paint that I bought, the mini paint, and I'm just adding some intense highlight lines around the folds of the dress. I'm going to be painting with metallic paints, and I feel like metallic paints look best on top of black, so I'm laying a coat down of black in just certain detail areas that we're going to be putting metallic paints on top of. We cannot forget about the butterfly, so I'm creating a gradient on the butterfly. I'm going from pink to purple to black. With a combo of red metallic paint and gold metallic paint, I'm just placing that on top of the areas that I painted black to accentuate some details. For one of the final touches and even deeper shading happening, I'm going in with pastels. I sprayed her with Mr. Super Clear, but I'm just doing this throughout the dress, the hair, even adding a little bit more on her face and her skin tone. We cannot forget the macro Pearl-X pigment. I'm putting that all over her dress, her face, just all over the place. I have these dragonfly paints, and they're just like duochromy, like super duper pretty paints, but I'm just going to be adding them to her shoes as well as her butterfly. I decided she needed more glitter, so I'm taking a chunky purple glitter and some glue, and I'm just gluing glitter chunks to her because it's a way of life. More sparkles, yes indeedy. So this is some Wet n Wild Mega Sparkle. I actually bought this for my eyeballs, but I've been using it on dolls lately, so we're going to use it on her as well. And I actually already sprayed the doll. So I sprayed her with matte varnish. I have Vallejo acrylic matte varnish. I sprayed her with that, and I actually did that before I put the sparkle on her, the chunky glitter sparkle. And this isn't like permanent, this sparkle, because it's not fixed with anything, but it does last like quite a bit. You can maybe touch her up later if you notice it goes away. She is basically almost done, but we need to glue her and her frame and her base together. So the frame, I didn't even show you guys this part. This is like a little holder thing. It's for the frame, and I'm super gluing this all together as well as the figure on top of the frame. Once everything is glued, she is done. Yes! So, this entire thing was just a giant learning experience for me. I didn't know how to do basically like any of this. I didn't know how to paint minis, and I also didn't know how to, I mean, she's not technically a mini. I didn't know how to paint resin figures either, or 3D print things, but I am okay with how she turned out. I don't know if I'll ever paint another resin figure or mini ever again in my life, but it's nice to experience new things, and it's also just really cool to have a 3D printer now. So I just wanted to thank Elegoo for working with me, and Jukka, you made a beautiful model. I'm going to have everyone and everything that I mentioned linked in the description box, so check that out. Like this video if you like this video, subscribe, it makes me happy, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Bye!